Thank you so much for joining us online today. You can continue to help us bring messages just like this one by going to anchorpoint.tv/give. I hope this message encourages you today and helps you grow on your journey with Jesus. Now let's dive in.
Hey, if I hadn't had a chance to meet you, my name is Todd. I get the opportunity to serve as the lead pastor. I want to encourage you to grab your Bibles if you got them today, man. May this year be the year you bring your Bible to church again. Man, I'm on a mission to get us to have this thing, learn the Bible that you hold and read every day. So we're going to be in the book of Acts chapter 12. That's where we're going to kind of hang out this morning. And if you got those message notes when you come in, make sure you jot a few things down and follow along. We do have those binders. We talked about those last week. For those message notes, collect all 52 of the year would be a great goal for you. Also in the seat rack in front of you, we are in the middle of 21 days with God. If you weren't here last week, I want to encourage you to spend the next 14 days with God. If you grab that rack card, we're on day number 8. That's where we are. And it's right down where we put the communion cup and stuff. And we talked about most of this stuff last week with Bible reading and prayer and fasting and all of those type things. But don't worry if you missed a day. Don't worry if you were here last week and you wanted to start, but you didn't start. Don't even worry. Just pick up at day number 8 because 14 days with God is better than 0 days with God. Come on and say amen, all right? So just jump in. And we're in part number 2 of this series called Make the Most of It. And this was not supposed to be the series. This was actually a sermon last week I felt like God had gave me for the new year. And really just can't get away from this thought. So we developed a sermon series out of it and just want to kind of drill down on it. And we made all of these decisions before the events of the week, which just shows me how God leads and guides, because I don't know what the future holds, but I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to make the most of my time, my energy, my effort. I'm going to make the most of my family. I'm going to make the most of my faith. I'm going to make the most of my ministry. I'm going to make the most with every breath that God gave me on this planet to advance the kingdom of God in the earth. Come on, if you're with me, say amen. That's what we're going to do. And I want us to do that as a church. I want to make the most of it, and that's going to require intentionality. I want you to say that word with me. 1, 2, 3, intentionality. Come on, say it like you already had your coffee. Come on, 1, 2, 3, intentionality. That's what it's going to require as we walk through this, making the most of it. Last week we learned we got to value our time and make the most of it. We got to invest in our spiritual life and make the most of it, and that we are seeking forward progress, not just fast progress. We're trying to move forward in the faith. And the reason I wanted to kind of unpack this is I think we have great intentions, but sometimes lack actions to match those intentions. Like we have a lot of want to, but not a lot of do. We have, well, you know, I want to do this. In fact, it's day number 10. You probably already kind of feathered down all of them things. You know, we're going to lose weight. We're going to go do this. We're going to eat better. And we're not going to go out to eat as much as a family. And you were at Chick-fil-A 4 times this week. I'm all right. You know, yeah, I want to, and you know, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. But often we have a lack of action. And what I want to do today is I want to help us close that gap between our intentions and our actions. And I want to pull some principles from Acts chapter 12 to do it. When we get to the book of Acts is a historical documentary of the early church. If you read Acts 1 to Acts 28, it is a historical documentary of the early church. In fact, when we get to Acts chapter 12, Christians are under great persecution. There's a king in charge of the Judean region. His name is King Herod Agrippa. Now, this is a different Herod than the Bible story Herod. Both of them were bad, but this one was worse. In fact, Herod Agrippa in Acts chapter 12 actually believed that he was the Messiah. So he was killing Christians, and the Jews loved him for it because he was squashing what they saw of as an act of rebellion. And in fact, when we pick up the story, you'll see he kills James with the sword. And you got to keep in mind, we kind of trying to relate this to modern day. Man, there is no justice system, no political apparatus for them to find any type of value. There's no conservative Supreme Court. There's no 501c3s. In fact, when we get to Acts chapter 12, the only place that they can find hope is directly with God. That's the only place that they can really find hope and trust in the middle of this. So we're going to read 11 verses today, and I want you to get the crux of the story. Here's what it says, Acts chapter 12, verse number 1. It's on your outlines. If you got your Bibles, read along with me. Here's what it says. It was about that time that King Herod, that's Herod Agrippa, arrested some who belonged to the church, intending to persecute them. He had James, the brother of John, put to death with the sword. So he's probably most likely got beheaded, all right? And verse number 3 says, when he saw that met the approval of the Jews, he proceeded to seize Peter as well. Now, you got to understand, Peter's the pastor of the church. Peter's the head. He is the top dog of the church. So he goes right for the head of the snake, so to speak, and he sees Peter also. And this happened during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Verse number 4, after arresting him, he put him in prison, handed him over to be guarded by 4 squads of 4 soldiers each. That's 16 if you're keeping track. Herod intended to bring him out for public trial after the Passover. Verse number 5. So Peter was kept in prison, but the church was earnestly praying to God for him. The night before Herod was to bring him to trial, Peter was sleeping between 2 soldiers bound by 2 chains, and sentries stood guard at the entrance. Suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared, and a light shone in the cell. And he struck Peter on the side and told him and woke him up. Quick, get up, he said, and the chains fell off Peter's wrists. The angel said to him, put on your clothes and sandals, and Peter did so. Wrap your cloak around you and follow me. And the angel told him. Peter followed him out of the prison, but he had no idea that what the angel was doing was really happening. He thought he was seeing a vision, thought he was in a dream. Have you had a dream so real you thought it was real? Women, have you ever dreamed your husband cheated on you and then you were mad mad at him when you woke up? Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. It's not our fault. We didn't do anything. We were sleeping. Verse number 10. They passed the first and the second guards, and they came to an iron gate leading to the city, and it opened by itself, and they went through it. And when they walked the length of the one street, suddenly an angel left, and then Peter came to himself and said, now I know without a doubt that the Lord has sent his angel to rescue me from Herod's clutches and from everything the Jewish people were hoping to happen. I want to use for a title today, Defining Decisions. Defining Decisions. Because the truth is, if you want to close the gap between your intentions and your actions, it's going to be your decisions. And there are some defining decisions that we have to make. It is estimated that the average person makes 35,000 decisions a day. I did a little math for you. That's 245K in a week. That's 1.274 million decisions in a year. Everybody say, wow. Ever had decision fatigue? You ever wonder why you don't know where you want to go eat? Women. Man, I love my wife. Y'all know I love my wife. I love her. But sometimes she frustrates me. Too big air. You better calm down, son. Justin and Raven got marriage counseling after the service. He used to serve and preach to our youth, but I don't know about it right now. There's 2 areas that me and my wife tend to have a little bit of friction, shall we say? A little friction. One's her driving. And 2 is when we're trying to decide where we want to eat. In fact, I brought up some memes. I want you to go ahead and show my first meme, because how many of you men have experienced, what do you want to eat? I don't know. What do you want to eat? How many of you have experienced this right here? Yes, we understand. I brought another. I love this one right here. Watch this. This is my house. Where do you want to eat? Doesn't matter. Waffle House? Nope. Wendy's? Nope. Then where? It doesn't matter. Me. I live in Summerdale, so I like to go to Waffle House. Like, you want to go to Waffle House? No, I ain't going to Waffle House. Like, you said it didn't matter. Here's my favorite one. Showing lives. And here's the root cause. I think the reason women have a hard time deciding where to eat, because the last time they decided, all of you may be plunged into sin and death. That's good preaching. Come on, men. That's good preaching right there. Every man in this room, they say, amen, preacher. Decision. Go back to get that off the screens. Yeah? Defining decisions are those decisions that impact every area of your life. Let me say it like this. Defining decisions are decisions that impact other decisions. You tracking? Defining decisions are decisions that impact other decisions. And here's what I know. Everybody in the room is going to make them. Like, we have made them. We will make them. You can't opt out of them. You can't escape them. Some you want to change. Some you want to redo. Some of you are like, well, I'm just not going to make any decisions. Nope. No decision is still a decision. In fact, the tension with these defining decisions is not every decision carries the same weight. Like, where you eat is not as important as who you marry. Every decision doesn't carry the same weight. Let me say it like this. Where you live is not as important as how you live. And so we got to make sure that we're making decisions with a prioritized end in mind, because it is our decisions that write the story of our life. Let me say it like this. We make our decisions, and then our decisions make us. So I just want to pull 3. I could probably give you 10. I want to give you 3. These are not the only defining decisions that you make in your life, and we'll cover more maybe in this Make the Most of It series now. But I want to give you 3 from the text that I think are critical defining decisions. And number 1 is this. Come on, note takers, jot it down. Number 1 is this. Is prayer is always the proper response. I mean, that's just a great defining decision of your life. Now listen to me. I'm not saying it's the only response, all right? Because there's a gap between intention and action. So yes, we want to get to action, but we should never act first and pray later. We should always pray first and then act, okay? So this is not the only decision, but this is a response that matters. And you got to get this. Our response matters. In fact, the way I wrote it down in my notes this week was my response plays a role. Come on, repeat after me. My response. Will you repeat after me? My response plays a role. Come on, my response plays a role. Now, here's where we get into, so let's dive off the deep end for just a little bit, okay? Just give me 5 minutes, all right? A lot of people say, well, you know, God is sovereign. Yes, and God is. And God's sovereignty is where we understand that He is the supreme authority and everything is under His control. And one view of God's sovereignty is often, well, I can't change anything because God is sovereign. He already has it all planned out. And, well, that would make you robots. So the correct view of God's sovereignty is, yes, He is in control, but He, in His sovereignty, gives you a free will. And now you have a role to play. It's like people who gets, I grew up in Pentecostal circles, and man, everything was the devil and everything was Jesus. And some of it was just people were stupid. You know, I got a speeding ticket the other day. I guess it's just the Lord's will. No, the Lord's will was for you to obey the speed limit. The consequence of you disobeying the law there was you got a speeding ticket. Now you got to go to traffic court. Okay, let's be crazy. I ran out of gas the other day. It's the demon of forgetfulness. I had a lady in the church. She said, it's the demon of forgetfulness. I'm like, no, I don't think it's the demon of forgetfulness. I think it's the demon of you got too much on your mind trying to text and feed the kids and go around in the car. I think that's what it is. In fact, I remember when I was in high school, I know y'all don't know this, but I had a little mouth on me, and I could talk a lot more than I could do. But if I had a group with me, sucker, because I was a church kid. I was holy enough to pray for you, but I was hood enough to swing on you. You know what I'm saying? So I remember after a high school football game, me and my buddies, we were walking toward our cars, and man, we had beat our crosstown rival, and I was 5'7" with boots on, 5'8". In high school, I was 145 pounds with 200 pounds of attitude, and I was riding them, and we were walking. I didn't know they had parked beside me, so we were walking to our cars, and I'm just letting them have it. And finally, I go too far. I say something about their mama, and I probably didn't use a good word with their mama. And about 5 dudes, they're like, all right, we're just going to throw down this parking lot. And I'm like, all right, then. We about to do this. And they're like, we who? And I looked around, and all my friends had walked off. And I was like, Now, here's the deal. That wasn't God's will. Now, what was God's will is that Officer Wilson, the school resource officer, pulls through the parking lot, and he shines his little light over and said, guys, is everything here? I was like, Officer Wilson, how are you tonight? I've been meaning to talk to you guys. I've got to, how's your wife and them? How's your mom and them? It's God's will. So I want to kind of dive into this because my response plays a role, and I want you to notice how the church responded. Verse 5, Peter was in, say it with me, Peter was in what? Peter was in prison, but the church was earnestly what? Praying. So, man, isn't this a great setup? Peter's in prison. but the church is praying. Now, most churches would have fired Peter. Well, he's in prison. He can't be a man of God. I mean, I've heard him speak. He's over there. I'm telling you, he's always telling jokes and stuff. Peter's in prison. We might as well just convene a committee meeting and get a new one. But no. Their response wasn't worry. Their response wasn't panic. Their response wasn't complaining. Their response was prayer. Now, here's the deal. That's easy said, hard lived. But I'll tell you this. Every decision in my life that I have not soaked in prayer, preceded with prayer, has ultimately led to regret. Because humanly, sometimes I don't want to pray. Sometimes I want to punch. When you get cut off, you don't want to pray. When somebody turns their back on you, you don't want to, humanly speaking. When somebody lets you down, somebody betrays you, you don't want to pray. But my response, prayer is always the proper response. And here's why. Prayer is powerful. I think many of us are underestimating the power of our prayer. And I'm telling you, to see God move in your life, to see God move in your family, to see God move in this church, to see God move, we must first be moved to prayer, because prayer is not preparation for the battle. Prayer is the battle. And if you want to prevail in life, you got to learn to prevail in prayer, because there's not a devil in hell that can stop a praying church. If you're with me, say amen. So you got to understand, this is always the proper sign. Now, Peter is in a hopeless situation. They've already killed James. This is not somebody talk about me on Facebook. We're under persecution. No, James is already put to death. Herod Agrippa's intention is now to do the same to Peter. And our response under pressure says a lot about our maturity. Ooh, help me, Lord. Help me, Lord. How we respond to pressure will tell me your level of spiritual maturity. In fact, there's different types of responses. I think we have a slide for this, and there's some in the kind of psychologically. We have fight, right? We have flight, and we have freeze. That's kind of what happens. Like somebody breaks in your house in the middle of the night. That's every Southern man's dream, by the way. You know, let's roll, baby. You know. Anyway, sorry. If that happens, one of three things is going to happen. Just right, Scott. One of three things is going to happen. You're going to fight, you're going to run, or you're going to freeze. Spiritually speaking, those same three things happen. But here's how they look. Prayer, panic, or passiveness. When things happen in your life, you will either pray. That's how we fight. This is how I fight my battles. Some of us are going to panic. Oh, my God. No, we're going to do this over. Oh, my God. Others of us, we're going to be like, we're going to do nothing. Nothing. And the way you respond will determine your level of spiritual maturity. And I'm telling you, I know it sounds so elementary, but prayer is always the proper response. Now, here's a detail that happens later. The church, my time, I got so many notes God's been giving me. The church is praying at Mary's house, not Mary, the mother of Jesus, Mary, John Mark's mom. And here's the thing. They're praying over here, and God is about to move over here. They're praying over here. It's complicated. You got to watch, right? They're praying over here, and God is about to move. Have you ever prayed from stuff and you can't see anything happening? And you wonder, why keep praying? Why am I going to keep praying? I can't see anything. Here's my question. Will you keep praying even if you don't see anything changing? Because you may be in a situation this morning that you never dreamed you would be in, but here you are. Here you are. And you can either panic about it, or you can be apathetic or passive about it, or you can say that, you know what? It's always the proper response to pray. So before you panic, pray. Before you worry, pray. Before you act, not that we're not going to pray. Why? Because time in prayer is never time wasted. That's why. Prayer is what really calms my fear and stirs my faith. Prayer aligns my heart with God's will in the earth. Prayer brings God into every situation. They killed James. I bet the church is saying, not Peter too. Now, I bet they're not just praying, God, lay me down to sleep and pray the Lord my soul to keep. I bet they ain't praying like that. I bet they ain't praying like, Lord, will you bless me today and take care of me and make sure I don't die on the road today, Lord. I bet they're praying with a little bit of urgency in their voice. I bet they're praying with a little bit of desperation in their voice. I wonder when the last time you got desperate for something and you said, God, we got to have something change in this area. There's a little acronym, PUSH, P-U-S-H, pray until something happens. And man, sometimes you might have to push. You might have to push a little distraction out of the way. You might have to push some people out of the way. You might have to push the plate out of the way and say, you know what? I'm going to be like the woman with the issue of blood. I'll push through the crowd. I'll push through the pain. But if I can touch Jesus, everything changes. Prayer is always the proper response. Number two, don't let what you can't control keep you up. I want to listen to this myself this week. This is blessing me. Lord, ain't you glad you came to church today? Don't let things you can't control keep you up. Quit losing sleep over the things you can't control. Now, how many of you like to be in control? Raise your hand. My hand's up. How many of you like to be in control? All right. Hold them up. How many of you that are hands are raised are full-blown control freaks and you'll own it? Control freak ain't even got no problem, right? Like, yeah, I'll put it down when I want to because I'm in control. Now, how many of you in the room are married to a control freak? Raise your hand. If you're married to a control freak and your hand is not up, they will be like, raise your hand right now. Raise it. Now. That's how you know. Don't let what you can't control keep you up. 40% of Americans are sleep deprived. And not because we have sleep issues, because we have worry issues and panic issues and despair issues. You know what I'm learning? Sleep is spiritual. Tell you, man, this is going to help somebody. Sleep is spiritual. Every teenager in this room, next time you sleep late and your mom and dad's getting on you, you just need to tell them, I'm just growing spiritually, mom and dad, just growing spiritually. Now, some sleep is lazy, but let me go. Let's focus back here. I think sleep is spiritual because it's amazing where Peter sleeps at. Now, some of y'all can sleep anywhere, and God bless you. Your boy ain't it. I got to have it dark, cold, and I don't care how cold it is. I need a fan going, you know. When I go to Ecuador, they laugh at me. When I go on a mission trip, I got noise-canceling headphones on. I wear an eye mask. I'm in a sleep deprivation chamber, baby. I don't know that the world exists. So I think it's amazing where Peter sleeps. Look what it says in verse number 6. The night before Herod Agrippa was to bring Peter to trial, he was sleeping. Notice where? Between two soldiers, bound by two chains. I'll just leave the 2 Chainz reference alone. And sentries stood guard. Peter's in prison, chained up, and surrounded by guards. Now, earlier in the text, it said 4 squads of 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16. So we got at least 16, but he's got 4 in the cell with him and 2 on the outer on the doors right there. Now, my first question is, what does Peter look like? I mean, why are they so scared? I mean, is this dude ripped? I mean, does this dude look like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator? I mean, what are they afraid of? I mean, this is Fisherman Peter. I mean, 16 dudes for Peter. I mean, is this Jack Bauer? Is this is this Ethan Hunt? I mean, who is this? What does he look? And then my second question is, why is he sleeping? If it's me, If it's me, I'm looking at the guards. I'm like, which one of y'all gonna try to kill me? Not you. I can take that one. If it's me, I'm plotting. Just being honest, if it's me, it's plotting. I'm planning. The kids are having a good time back there today. I'm good. I'm looking for that YouTube video, like how to break out of a jail cell, like that. Like I'm just saying that if it's me, but Peter getting his beauty sleep, y'all. Now you're acting like, I don't know why you're not amazed. This is Peter. Cussing Peter. Cutting ears off Peter. This is Peter. This is Peter. Peter. I'm going to die in the morning, but I'm going to sleep tonight. I think Peter knows something we don't know. In fact, I think this is where Peter learns a promise and a principle. If you got your Bibles, and if you would flip over to 1 Peter, you don't have to, but if you would, this ain't going to come up on the screen because I just saw this a little bit later. And you flip over to 1 Peter chapter 5, verse number 7. There's this verse that we quote all the time. And I want to tell you what, I can't prove it, but this is where I think Peter learned it. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7 says this: cast your anxiety or your cares, if you're New King James, cast your cares on him, for he cares for you. How many of you have ever heard that statement? Peter wrote it, and I can't prove it, but I bet you this is where he learned it. I bet you this is where he learned it. I bet this is where he said, you know what? I can trust him. And you know what? Peter knows in this moment God is in control. Now, I'm going to press on you just for a minute. I'm going to pastor you. There's a lot of people in our culture right now that seem more consumed by the things that they can't control than by things they can actually control. In the last 365 days, I have seen so many posts of people mad at politicians. They shouldn't act like that. They shouldn't do that. They shouldn't say that. We are mad at politicians, but give ourselves a pass. Okay, I'm just checking, make sure this thing's on. Like you're concerned about the direction of the country. I'm not saying you shouldn't be. You're concerned about the direction of the country, but you don't give hardly any thought to the direction of your family. You see, like we're worried about things that yes, you should be involved. Yes, you should. Yes, but you have a lot more direct control about, like I saw all posts, Facebook censorship. I can't get my message out. When's the last time you sat down eyeball to eyeball with somebody and shared the message of Jesus with them? Because you can get your message out. Yeah, you can. You can take somebody to coffee today and get your message out. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be concerned about those things. That's not my point of that. My point of this is that, you know what? There's a lot more you're concerned about in the White House, and there's a lot more your control is in your house. And I'm telling you, if you want to change the direction of a nation, start with the family and see what happens. See what happens. Watch God move. Peter's in prison. And I just choose to, I'm telling you, the only reason I can get that he can sleep, sleeping in prison has to be a product of a restful soul. Not a peaceful circumstances, but a restful soul. In fact, one pastor said it like this: he can sleep even when things are out of his control because they're still under God's control. Oh man, and this is trust on a whole nother level. I mean, this is trust. Like I want to say I'm there, but this is trust that I'm striving to. Because if 2020 shook you, this kind of trust that we need. If the events of this week shook you, this is the trust that we need. Trust on a whole nother level. Trust that God knows where you are. Trust that He knows what you need. Trust that His purpose will prevail. And man, I want to be like Peter. If I'm in prison, I'm there on purpose, and I'm going to go to sleep. Night, don't let the bed bugs bite. I'm sleeping in peace because Peter knows if God is present, peace is possible. If God is present, peace is possible. I think Daniel knew it in the lion's den. If God is present, peace is possible. You know what? I think Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego knew it in a fiery furnace. If God is present, peace is possible. I think David knew it in Psalm 23 when he said, I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. And if you're with me, you can keep me, and you're for me. Verse number 7. And suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared, and the light shone in the cell, and he struck Peter on the side and woke him up and said, get up, he said, and the chains fell off. God's ability to set you free is greater than any chains that hold you captive. You might not be surrounded by prison of iron bars and held captive by physical chains. Yours are much more camouflaged than that. It's chains of addiction. It's prisons of bitterness. Still a prison, just as real, and still in need of a Savior for deliverance. Some of you, the most spiritual thing you can do tonight is take it to God and go to sleep. Some of you need to go home today and take a nap. Some of you are like, that's good preaching right there. I'm telling you, take a nap. A guy told me in my life one time, he said, you know, when you're physically tired, you'll be spiritually weak. You'll make decisions when you're tired you wouldn't make any other way. It's like going to Walmart hungry. You be buying stuff you don't even like. Oh, look at that, salami. You ain't ate salami. Walking by onions. I wish I could have an onion. I'm fasting for the Lord. And when you're tired physically, emotionally, if you're not careful, you'll make some decisions in that moment you may regret in the next one. People say, I'm going to die in the morning. If it's God's will, cool. I'm going to sleep tonight, though. And the third thing is this, number 3, just defining decisions. There's insight in hindsight. There's insight in hindsight. Hindsight used properly will give you insight into how to adjust, grow, and move forward. If you use it properly, you'll be able to move forward with wisdom and understanding. I'll say it like this. Hindsight used properly will position you for a better tomorrow. Peter thought, man, it was so real to him. He thought he was dreaming. Yeah. And I can't get away from this phrase in verse 11. Then Peter came to himself and said, say it with me, said what? Now I know. After the angel done told you to get up, you done walked a block. It says it walked one street down, a block down the street. Now I know. After the angel left, now I know, without a doubt, that the Lord has what? His angel sent his angel and what? Rescued me from Herod's clutches, from everything the Jewish people had planned. Now I know. Whew, that's a dangerous statement. He could have said, now I know. I made the wrong choice. I should have been fishing. I mean, it was hard living, but I wasn't in prison. Now I know. Now I know they're trying to kill me. This is crazy. I mean, I got to be out of God's will. Now I know I'm out of God's will, because if I was in God's will, there ain't no way I'd be in pain. Now I know. Now I know that even in hard places, God's plan will prevail. I found out you can rarely make sense of all of it when you're in the middle of all of it. You just can't. And so many times we look back with regret, or we look back and we want to forget about it, but I want to challenge you to look back and learn from it. Because what you refuse to learn from, you are destined to repeat. And I want to learn from it. Will you stand with me today? Bow your head, close your eyes. What's your defining decision today? What do you need to look back on the first 10 days of 2021 or the last 365 of 2020 and say, you know what? Now I know. If it's out of my control, it's still under His. Now I know. Now I know that His silence wasn't His absence. Now I know. Now I know that if He's with me, He can keep me. Now I know. Now I know, because of all the pain I've been through, all the loss I've been through, all the setbacks I've been through, that greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world. Now I know. Now I know.
Well, thank you so much for joining us online today. If this message impacted you and you have a story to share, let us know. Email us at amen@anchorpoint.tv. Also, maybe you have a prayer request. We would love to pray with you. You can email that prayer request to care@anchorpoint.tv. And don't forget, you can join us online live every Sunday at 10 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I hope to see you there.